You are amazing. You're going to have millions of subscribers, millions. You're Joe Rogan. You're Tim Ferriss.
The mind is a powerful force. It can enslave us or empower us. It can plunge us into the depths of misery or take us to the heights of ecstasy. Learn to use the power wisely. This is the human experience. Our state of mind controls our experience. Interviewing people from around the world about their experience, their mindset. And if money was not the object, what would it be? Welcome to one of the most unique experiences on the web, the human experience. Now your host, Levi Lewis.
Thank you, Laura.
Wow. Yeah, incredible.
A week ago, we were talking first time to do a podcast. Now we're sitting and we're doing the first episode of the human experience. Did you ever think that first time you met me that we were going to do a podcast together?
No. I did have some visions that something was going to play out in the future, that it was not an accidental connection, but certainly I did not see myself sitting here talking to you now back in Sweden while I'm still in Costa Rica on this podcast. I'm so incredibly honored. Thank you.
Thank you for being the first guest on the beautiful podcast, The Human Experience, If Money Was Not the Object. Laura, welcome. Great to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here. So great to be here.
Thank you. So we met for a couple of months ago, and I'm just curious to know, like, what was your first impression seeing me stepping onto your land?
You know, the minute you stepped on to the property, it was actually, I remember it was in the evening, so it was dark, but it's like this force just came out. Even though it was dark, this light force just came shooting out of the taxi you were in, and I was like, whoa, who is this guy? You know, and I know that you had a little bit of motion sickness because you were over the mountain of death. Serra de la Muerte is the mountain of death here in Costa Rica, and it's a long haul from where you were coming from. But I just the vibration immediately, the vibration of in my own physical presence and the vibration of this property has never been the same since that moment that you stepped out of that car. It's incredible.
Wow.
It's incredible.
That's beautiful to hear. So I did some form of impact.
It's interesting because we had a little bit of we had some almost misfires, right? With Airbnb. It was difficult because you were my very first Airbnb customer, actually. You were my first, I'm your first on the podcast. You were my first Airbnb customer.
Ever since I stepped out of the car, I don't know. It's a beautiful experience talking to you every time. I learn a lot from you, and especially within spirituality and some of the topics that I want to dive deeper into later on. But before,
super excited.
The people that are new to you and doesn't know you, who are you and what's your career history?
Yes, thank you. So, Laura Flanagan, and I am a scientist by education and career. So I spent over 30 years as a molecular biologist in the US, first in academics, about 10 years in academics, and then another 20 plus in the private industry, in private biotech industry. But all the while that I was working that career, in particular at the biotech company that I was working for, I was also studying and teaching yoga and meditation. So for over 20 years, I had that experience. And ultimately, this is what led me here to Costa Rica. You know, that's the end. That's the end of the story. There are a lot of details that happened in between.
I can imagine.
You know, in between being a scientist and teaching and learning yoga and traveling to India. One of the most, I think, profound things that happened to me to take me off my trajectory was that I was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2013. So, this led me down different paths, and I continued to study and learn meditation. And it's through a lot of that deep internal work, which is so important. And I know you and I have these conversations often. It was through that work that a new path revealed itself to me. And it took me a long time to accept that and move on it. But eventually, in 2018, I moved my horse and myself and 3 dogs and minimal possessions to Costa Rica, right here on this property. And since that time in 2018, I've built 2 homes on this property. One is the one you graced with your presence. That is a
Thank
small
you.
guest house that is just ahead of me. And then my main house is here. And then I have a barn just down the way from this house. And I'm on 2.5 acres of food forest, organic food forest, very intentionally, having come through breast cancer, having a science background, knowing what I knew about my diagnosis. I have cut myself completely away from Western medicine, which I know goes against most programming, especially for cancer survivors. What? I've had so many of my friends say, what? What about,
Yeah.
aren't you going to
Imagine.
need CT scans and MRIs? And actually, I've never had a CT scan. I did have one MRI
Yeah.
when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, but, if I would have done what the protocol suggested I do, per my diagnosis, I honestly feel like I wouldn't be on this side of the dirt. And so I cut myself away from all Western medicine, and I'm now using alternative means to prevent recurrence. And part of that is, eating all of the wonderful foods that are growing on my property, some of which I'd never heard of prior to moving here.
Organic and
So
green. I love that.
organic and green all day, every
Organic and
day, and new
green.
stuff coming up
That's cool.
all day, every day.
Getting breast cancer and then having that career that you had, how did that change your life? Like how did it change your experience in your life?
Yeah, so having been it was actually a little bit a little bit of a slap in the face, if you will, because I had been teaching also, in addition to yoga and meditation, fitness classes. So here I am, supposed to be this fitness guru, and I have breast cancer. Now, there
Yeah.
are, as a scientist, I can go into great detail as to the reasons I believe that, in the physical body anyway, the reasons that I wound up with this diagnosis. So that's the pure physical pragmatic end of things, the scientific end of things. But on the emotional end, there's another whole story, right? So there's the idea of really turning in and tuning in, which again, you and I talk a lot about. Sorry, it's fly season here. And so there's, dealing with what chakras are out of balance. And that's kind of the work that I've been doing now, not just with myself, but that's now my full-time business down here, is using functional nutrition. I'm a certified functional nutrition counselor, using that to help people understand whatever chronic illness it is that they have, not necessarily just cancer. And so I'm not sure if that's a long answer. I'm not sure if I drove right to the point of your question, but hopefully
I
that
can
made
imagine
sense.
though that it's a big shift in your reality when that's something big hits you, and I mean you're a fitness guru and you're into nutrition and everything, and that just comes and basically slaps you out of your comfort.
It's the
Yoga, one
human
of the
experience.
is the human experience.
It's
It's
the
a part
human
of it, right?
experience.
And we're
It's
here
part of being
discussing the human
human.
experience.
Exactly.
That's, yeah,
That's right.
interesting. Did yoga and meditation, was it a big part of your transformation out to become a healthy woman again?
100%. And it remains so. 100%, 200%, 2000%. Yes. Without question. I wouldn't be here on this property if it were for deep meditation practices. There were some other experiences that I had, shamanic journeying experiences in Peru shortly after being diagnosed, that were helpful. And then I traveled to India and studied with my gurus, as well shortly after my diagnosis. So there's it was a very eventful 4 years, 5 years between diagnosis and moving here. But definitely the underlying theme, the sort of sutra, if you will, the sutra means theme, or thread, is for me has been meditation. That has been my lifeline. It's been a non-negotiable. and I know it is for you as well. And,
Yeah, big
so
time.
that's why now, and now is the time, right? People really need to hop on board. And it shouldn't take a cancer diagnosis for people to start
That's
developing a
what I said.
practice.
Like it should be a number one thing everybody should do in their everyday life. But I think also a lot
100%.
of people has this label on meditation yoga that you need to be a spiritual guru, you need to come from India, you need to be religious, or you need to believe in God. But meditation is something that is so deep for me because without me going and meditating throughout my day, I can feel it. I can feel how I'm vibrating at a different frequency, like big time. It's a very, very big change.
Mm-hmm.
And not only getting these answers of what I should do next, but it's really changed a lot for me. But one thing that meditation taught me, and this is pretty crazy, and I know that you're into nutrition, so I would want to ask you, but the thing is when I started meditating, like on an everyday basis, I started noticing that the food I was putting in my body was wrong. So
Oh,
when I started shifting my diet and I removed dairy, meat, sugar, gluten, I feel like I'm walking on clouds. Like my mind and my
mm-hmm.
body is like walking on clouds throughout an entire day. But the thing is, I never thought that it was the food that was gonna change me that like big time. Go through such a transformation just by changing your diet, but changing your
Mm-hmm.
diet with meditation, with physical exercise, like your mind will explode of consciousness
Absolutely.
evolving to a new level. And this is an interesting topic. Do you believe that like the food what we are putting in our body, I think you're on the same page as me, but don't you think a lot
100%.
of people are eating completely wrong?
100%. And it's really sad and it's a shame. And I think it dates back to, the revolution, the food, there's this food revolution, that happened back when really women started entering the workforce back in the 50s, right? So women were no longer home cooking for their families. And I'm not going to suggest that that's what they should be doing, but it was such a fast transition from women being home cooking for the family to being in the workforce, not having time to cook for the family. And this is where the food industry, the restaurant industry really leveraged this. And we started seeing, processed foods and fast food being the way to survive, the way to get by, because women don't have time to cook for the family anymore. And so there was this huge surge, and shame on the food industry for really leveraging that and continuing to leverage that, right? We now
Yeah.
know, we're not so ignorant anymore. We know, there are a few books out there, the China Study and the Food Revolution, and these are older books by now, almost 2 decades old. But we know that this is what has put us at such health risk, such a really, it's a crisis, and it should be
Yes.
illegal, but
I
but
think so too.
we're programmed to feel like we don't have time to cook. Just buy the frozen product, buy the canned stuff. I always teach
Yeah.
my clients, shop the perimeter of the stores. When you go in, do not stay out of the center, because that's where all the processed foods are. Shop for the
Yeah.
fresh, raw, foods, the fruits. If it didn't
Greens.
grow that way, you don't
Yeah.
want to eat it. Look at the back of whatever it is you feel like you absolutely have to buy. And if you see a list of ingredients longer than, say, 3 lines, and you don't recognize most of them, if you need a PhD to interpret what the heck it is you're reading,
Yeah.
put it back on the shelf.
Shouldn't take
Put it
it.
back on the shelf.
You
Just don't do
shouldn't
it.
take it. This is interesting that
Yeah.
you say it because I was at the shop today and I was looking on all the ingredients that was on these things that I was gonna buy, and I was looking at the package and I'm like, okay, is it sugar or not? And the thing is, I couldn't find so many things, and I was like, okay, I have no idea what is. Just put it back. And
If
ever
you're
since I
not
went into
sure,
this,
put it back.
yeah, I dodged it big time. Ever since I
Awesome.
went to this green lifestyle, full vegan and staying away from a lot of sugar and gluten, it's an incredible change. It's an incredible change of mindset because it gives you these perceptions about everything around you that you're more cautious, you're more aware what you're just doing throughout your daily life. So my practices and my
Wow.
exercise,
So
for
great to
example,
hear.
within yeah, it's great. Like my yoga practices and my meditation has evolved a lot since I changed up my diet. But I think a lot of people listening to this podcast, they're gonna have the questions like, okay, what is really yoga and what is really meditation? Because I know in the beginning I was like, no, I could never do yoga. That's not me. I was going to the gym and I was out running. That was the only thing I could do. But what does yoga mean for you, and what is meditation?
Super great questions. Thank you. Those are my favorite questions. Yoga literally means to yoke. The word yoga means to yoke or to unite. Now we can look at that from many perspectives, from many lenses. It's uniting mind and body and spirit. Mind, body, and spirit unite through the practice of
Mm.
yoga. But we're also uniting male and female energies, which we all have within us. So through the practice, that naturally happens. We're also uniting light and dark forces. We are uniting opposing energies. So it's union of strength and flexibility, for instance. You probably have experienced that yourself in the yoga practice. It's not just about being strong. It's also not just
Yeah,
being about
exactly.
flexible. It's the balance
Yeah.
of the two that this beautiful practice manifests for you. The balance
Hmm.
between strength and flexibility. So it is the union. But overall, I go back to the first answer, which is it's the union of mind, body, and spirit, which is so critically important and so missed in the yoga practice. A lot of people look at it as a physical practice. So I'm going to the gym to do yoga because I need a workout.
Exactly.
Way beyond that. And one of my greatest teachers, his name was Nagindis, and he was over 80. I think he was like 83 years old when he traveled to the States. And I took a 2-day workshop from him, 4 hours one day, 4 hours the next. And he literally sat on a cement floor. He's a very tall gentleman. And he sat on a cement floor in his white robes and did not move for 4 hours in lotus pose,
Wow.
if you can imagine. And to not
Yeah.
move, and we're all like scribbling notes and we're writhing on the floor. And, like all of a sudden I realized this guy hasn't even taken a break. He's not moved. His posture has been just like this. How does he do this?
That's a lot.
And
Four
what
hours. Wow.
Yes, yes. And I watched it 2 days in a row. And this is not a young person. And, it's carpet over cement, the place where
Hmm.
the little studio where he was teaching us. And so what I started to realize is what he was teaching us, many, many things. I mean, I learned so much from him, but one of the things that he taught is that yoga is not about the body, it's about the mind. And
Yeah.
ultimately, what the ancient yogis knew and understood is that this beautiful practice of yoga rids the body of restrictions so that people can sit long enough, as he demonstrated, for the messages to come through to the mind through meditation. So, rid the body first of restrictions so that you can sit on the cushion long enough to do pranayama, which is breath work to clear the channels,
Yeah.
and then to really allow the mind to go into that deep meditative state, which ideally is the theta wave, brainwave state. We kind of transition alpha theta, alpha theta. Those are, most people will, and if they're not very well practiced in meditation, will stay in the alpha state, which is also great. And there's no need to really push to get to theta.
Go deep into
There's
it.
no such thing as meditation Olympics. Hey, I got the
Yeah.
theta. But the theta wave state is where a lot of transformation happens. So,
Hmm.
so hopefully that answers the question. Meditation is the practice of turning in and observing self from higher self, observing this self that we have sort of attachment to, the physical body, which is not permanent. We all know that. We all know that we die, even
Yeah.
though we never really do die. We're never really born and we never die in a real essence, if you really want to talk about the metaphysical aspects of this human experience. We're never born, we never die. We just have this
Exactly.
illusion, and we have this short period we're living in this consciousness in a physical body that happens to have an identity. This I am Laura Flanagan. I am a scientist. I am a yoga teacher. I am a functional nutritionist.
Yeah.
I am a farmer. I am all these things. In the end, doesn't matter because life is just so incredibly short. It's like a blip of a radar. It's like we blink our eyes and it's over. And the
Hmm.
Hindu belief is that we come back, and we come back, and the idea in this lifetime is to burn through karma, to learn from the mistakes that we made in previous incarnations of this expression of
Yeah.
God. And then we spoke of this last time, that we're all unique expressions of God, whatever your
Yes.
God happens to be, whether it's Allah or Buddha or God or
Exactly.
whatever you call him. People fight so much
Yeah.
over a name, and again, it's silly. It's silly because we all are from that same source.
Yeah, I mean, we all
So
are the creators, and this is a powerful one. I
absolutely.
think a lot of people need to embody to really understand the true essence of why we're here and what we're here to do. And the interesting part for me is I grew up with a dad that was very, very religious in Jesus. So Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. When the only thing I could ever hear about. And now when I, you know, went through my own journey, self discovery, and going through the meditation and yoga, for me, I realized that everything is in front of us. Like I would say all the answers are always in front of us. And what I mean by that is we are the creator of our own reality. So that should
Absolutely.
explain itself that we are the creators. We are the universe, because we are manifesting from moment to moment. We're using our imagination to imagine what we're about to do next. And the interesting part, when I got into yoga, and my mentor, he was always saying that yoga has a lot to do with making space for your passenger inside. So opening up your body
Wow, I
and
love
giving
that.
it, yeah, and that one has been with me for a long time. So every single yoga session I do, I tend to do 2 yoga sessions every day. So in the morning I do vinyasa, and in the
Amazing.
nighttime I do yin. So for the
So
people that
perfect.
doesn't know about yoga, vinyasa is a bit more moving, flowing yoga practice, and yin is a more gentle practice when you're holding poses for a longer period of time. And when I started doing yin in the beginning, the gentle practice, I was getting so bored. I could go to sleep, like literally, I could go to sleep. I was laying there and I'm like, why am I doing this? It doesn't make
Why am
sense.
I doing this? This is so.
Yeah, like
It's such a fascinating question. I think everybody is faced with that question when they start a yoga practice, whether it's vinyasa or yin. But yin, you're amazing. I mean, you always blow my mind. But to be so young and to have these practices and to figure out that you have them placed exactly appropriately throughout the course of the day. So you would definitely want to do the more rajastic or energizing
hmm
poses in the morning, which you're doing with your
exactly.
vinyasa, and the more what we call tamastic. Tamas, so there are three gunas, which are energies in yoga. One is rajas, which is very high energy, heat, sort of male oriented. And the other is tamas, which is lethargic, cooling, not lethargic. I shouldn't say lethargic. That's kind of an extreme, but it's a more cooling energy, a more female energy. So your
hmm
rajastic practice in the morning, your um, your tamas practice in the evening is perfect because then throughout the course of your day, what you're probably experiencing, and I know you are because I've had many conversations with you, you are very sattvic. So sattva is the state in between the two. It's a state of sort of, I guess you could liken it to the flow, the zone. We talk about being in the zone. So the fact
Yeah.
that you have bookends of practice like that is really significant, and people should really follow you. They should really be doing what you're doing. I mean, I'll have what he's having.
I would have
Is
that
the
piece
kind
of
of thing I
cake.
always say.
I'm trying to spread this word, like, and it's interesting because my little brother, he's 13 years old. Shout out to Lexus. I know you're gonna watch this podcast. I love you, bro. He is the man. Like, he is 13 years old, and we are right now on a 30 days challenge. And what we're doing basically is that we're extending all of our practices and exercise. And he's also a trader. He's studying to become a trader right now. And I was telling him, okay, I'll show you the key to become a trader in 3 months' time. And he was like, okay, where do I start? And the first thing that I told him to do is, okay, brother, we're gonna go out and run. And he said, what? We're gonna go out and run? Like, shouldn't I been studying? And I said, the first step to become a trader is to turn inward. The first step to you to understand trading is to understand yourself. So for 3 months now, we've been, 20 a.m. every morning. We go out for a run. We do our very short workout with vinyasa, and we read, we do journaling, and we do the yin on the nighttime breath work. And it's incredible
Amazing.
to see his
This is your
transformation within his vessels.
13-year-old brother, right? This is your
This is my
13-year-old
13
brother
years old brother. I wish to have
in
him on a
Sweden.
podcast episode very soon. Huh?
I hope you do. I really hope you do. And he is in Sweden with you, correct?
He's right. Let me, for a fact, let me get him
Bring him
right
on.
now.
Bring the rock star on. I'd love to see him. We need to
He's
see
on the
him.
podcast, bro.
The audience needs to
So
see him.
yeah,
The
the
rock
audience needs to
star.
see it.
I need to see
They
this
just
rock
need to see
star.
your face very fast. So
Hello?
this is my
Just a quick
little
hello.
brother.
Hi. Oh my goodness. How are
He's even
you?
a dread boy. But
Yeah, I
yeah, so
love
I'm
it.
explaining for them that you're planning to become a trader, and
Mhm.
the answers is inwards. So I've been teaching you studying yoga and meditation
Mhm.
more than sitting on the computer and studying the actual answers. And the reason why is because you need to learn more within yourself more than external. Isn't that right?
Yes.
So tell the podcast, what should every 13-year-old do?
Meditate.
Meditation for the nation. Thank you, brother. I love you.
Thank you so much. Is his name? Tell me his name again. Lexus.
Lexus.
Lexus Rockstar.
When I was 13 years old, I wish I was meditating.
Listen,
You'd
I
want to
wish I was
meditate?
meditating when I was 20. Are you 21 or 20? I can't remember.
21.
Yeah, you're
21.
21. I wish I were
Yeah.
meditating when I was 21.
When did
Your
you start
audience.
meditating?
I started meditating when so my yoga practice was first, and I was practicing yoga for a good 10 years before I found meditation, before I really dedicated myself to meditation, I should say. I thought I was meditating, but I really wasn't. And so I started meditating when I was probably about 35, 30, 35, between that age range. Yes.
So I have
So,
14 years to chill, basically.
yeah, you do.
For the people that is very new to meditation and wants to get started and wants to throw themselves into understanding more of what we call spiritual awakening, expansion of consciousness and everything in between, how should people start meditate?
My gateway to meditation was not medication, but meditation was mantra. So my teacher, one of the things I struggle with as a very, in the Ayurveda world, we have doshas, what are called doshas, different archetypes. And I'm very what they call pitta and vata. That means very active, need to be doing something all the time, sort of type A, we would call it in our culture. And so without meditation, I was all over the place, just very, very scattered. Meditation has helped me to really be
Same.
focused and achieve goals. I'm sure, same. You're Pitta, for sure,
Yeah.
you're Pitta. And so as a Pitta person, I struggled. I really enjoyed my yoga practice, and it did bring me a state of peace, especially Shavasana. But Shavasana is not meditation. Shavasana, I'd stay in there and I would feel like I was meditating, but until I met my teacher, never realized I wasn't really meditating. And so he suggested
Hmm.
mantra to me because I said, I'm one of two things. I'm either really wide awake and active, or I'm dead asleep on the pillow. There's hardly anything in between. So if I
Yeah.
try to sit and meditate, I fall asleep. And I'm sure a lot of people listening in the audience have had this experience. If they've tried to meditate, there's the nodding off, you know, or there's the monkey mind going crazy. I can't sit for that long. You get up and my phone just rang, and you interrupt your meditation. So there's those two ends of the spectrum, and trying to find that sattva, that middle way,
Balance.
is what we are trying to do in meditation, and it's very important. So my way of breaking through the sleepiness was to use mantra, which is chanting, and then also using mudra. And so there's a mudra that, the fingers are said to represent the five elements of the body. So we have five fingers, five elements. This is air. Fire. The thumb is fire. The index finger is air. The middle finger is ether or space. The ring finger is the
Mm.
earth, and the pinky is water. So we can bring balance to all five elements in the body just by touching our fingertips with our thumb. Touch fire to all
Yeah.
four other elements, and you bring balance to the body. So, and one of my classic meditations was to use mantra with mudra, mantra being the chant, mudra being the finger positions, and it is sat ta na ma, sat ta na ma. So
That's
touching the
mad.
fingertips, sa ta
Doesn't that
na
mean
ma.
truth is identity or something?
Truth is my name. You got it.
Truth is my name. Truth is my identity. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I heard a lot about the Kundalini rising, and that you should repeat that. And yeah, I've heard that. Now you just reminded me of something. But something the meditation taught me a lot is being specific and definite. And what I mean by that is the things that I do throughout my daily life. I have always had these big goals in life. I'm very success driven and want to achieve a lot of things, and I've started so many things. And my mom always says, like, Levi, you always start things, but you don't know how to end them. And ever since I started meditating, I can kind of get a more clear whiteboard on exactly the things that I need to do in order to execute these ideas. And the reason why I believe meditation is like a key to success, is such an power, is because you're becoming familiar what's coming to and through you. And we were talking a lot about, that we are the
Goosebumps.
gods, we are the creators. Good. That's what we need. We are the creators, we are the gods. And then if I am unique expression of this universe, that means I'm getting downloaded thoughts that nobody else are getting. So by me just tuning into myself, witnessing what's happening inside my mind, I can start discovering what's going through. I can start discovering what I can create for myself and for the world. And this is a really, really profound mindset I've gone into, because after I really understood what meditation is and why I should meditate, I've got everything so clear path. Like it's helped me so much getting everything just more down path of what I need to do and why I should do it. Especially with these definite goals that I'm talking about, because I have a lot of goals, but I never knew how to accomplish them. But now it's much more easier because I can really become familiar with it. And I was living on under a period of time, I was living with a lot of stress, because this stress was a lot of pressure from my previous career path as a footballer. And the thing is, when I started meditating, I started to realize that I was getting thoughts and I was getting things through in my mind that didn't resonate with my present now. So I needed to go in
Mm.
and rewire that.
You're reminding me, and to see how many successes you've already had at 21, it's mind blowing. And again, this is why, like, obviously you
Thank
have a
you.
huge following, and it's going to just expand. I just see this like huge expansion, in a
Thank
very
you.
short time and at a critical time in the universe. But what you are experiencing in my teacher's words, one of my teachers, Rod Stryker, I remember him. The words were burned in my head. Let me see if I can say them eloquently as he put it. The the yoga and meditation practices, that they're working when the gap between your goals and achieving them shortens. When the
Hmm.
gap between your goals and getting there, when that gap shortens, your practice is working. You know it's working. And that you are a
Yeah.
true representation of this exact phrase. The gap between
Hmm.
your end destination, your goals, and where you are now shortens when you meditate.
That's the one I take with me from my mentor that always says, you're creating space for your passenger within. Breathe and breathe. Continue and it will continue and will continue. Yeah, this is
Absolutely.
yoga and meditation I think it's a crucial thing we should teach our kids today, especially in school. I mean, it would be very powerful if they had meditation, group meditations, if they had yoga
Absolutely.
practices, and even like for soccer players or something. But
Oh,
I
huge.
hopefully we will implement that to the new earth we're creating right now. We're
Yes.
really really building new perceptions about the world. But this is an interesting question. I think a lot of people that is listening to this podcast has waited for. What is the human experience all about? And if money was not the object, what would it be?
Hmm. So if you're asking me my personal answer on that, what is this human experience? I'll address that first. because they're really kind of two questions, I think, embedded in one. This
Yeah.
human experience is a unique expression of God. So we kind of touched a little bit on that, but that is a very, it sounds like a simple statement, but if people really, I invite them to explore that statement for themselves. I am a unique expression of God. Now, I grew up, under the religion, the Catholic religion. And so, in that religion, that would be almost blasphemy to say that I'm a unique expression of God is vanity, it's egotistical. But now what we're seeing in the world is that extremist viewpoint, and I'm not, again, I don't want to sound like I'm anti any religion because they're all aiming at the same thing, and that is love. If you
Hmm.
really look at, peel the layers back,
Yes.
all religions are aimed at
Love.
love and compassion. There's no
Unconditional. Yeah.
religion that is without that being the underlying premise, right? And so
Hmm.
when I look at it from that perspective, I don't judge any religion at all. But the fact of the matter is that we've been taught not to turn in, but instead look for God externally, look for love externally,
Yeah.
look for
Exactly.
everything external. And this is what has created such dualistic thinking, such I am me and you are you, and I have this and you don't, and I will get more of this to show you that I'm better than you. And this kind of mentality doesn't work anymore in the world, and it goes
Hmm.
completely against the idea that we all come as one little maybe aspect of the pure divine light where we all originated and where we are all going to come back to. We're coming home to the light eventually. But
Where we
in the
began.
meantime, this consciousness is a pure expression of divine light that has a veil, for the most part, at least in this phase of the universe, which is known as Kali Yuga. That's the Hindu scriptures talk about this being four different phases of the universe, and we're in the shortest phase. It's the in terms of time, we're in the shortest phase, but it's known as the Iron Age or the Dark Age. It's where we
Like
have such a
illusion and
thick,
ego, right?
yeah, it's like we have this thick veil of illusion. We are disillusioned. And this veil of illusion
Yeah.
is called Maya, Maya. And Maya is what is creating, it's so thick. One of my teachers uses this concept of Maya or illusion as is a great analogy of having a beautiful gem in your heart center. If you can just picture that, well, your audience can do that right now, close the eyes, and picture that you have this beautiful, very high value gem right in the center of your heart, right in
Hmm.
on a heart chakra space, because we all have it. Or you can picture it as a brilliant light. But imagine that you're so protective of it that you put a plexiglass box over it and you keep it shut up, closed up in there for your whole life. And as life goes on and you have experiences in this human experience, then dust starts to cover that box. And we get a lot of dust
Hmm.
layering and layering and layering over. And soon there's so much dust on the box, the light is diminished. We don't see it anymore.
Yeah.
We don't even remember that we have it. And so these practices, meditation in particular, you can kind of liken to kind of brushing off the dust so that you can see the light, so that we can remember, which is something that I hear you say a lot, remembering, right?
Yeah, I will always continue to speak about it. When I speak about spirituality or spiritual awakening or anything, I always refer to remembering, because I believe that a spiritual awakening is consciousness recognizing its own consciousness. So it's basically
Right.
you remembering who you are and why you came to Earth. But I think also what you mentioned there about the human experience, you are putting it into words that basically we are gods, the creators, we are the light itself. And I think it's very hard for a lot of people to grasp on that quote, or just the understanding of that we are light. And in general, like, we are the universe, we are so much more than we think we are. I think the human experience today, if I would ask anybody out there what's the human experience is all about, I think a lot of people would, they immediately, the first thought that would come to them is the material world. It's this
Mm-hmm.
outer world, what we're experiencing. And this is interesting to hear your answer, and that you're basically explaining for me and the audience that we are the light. We are so much more than we are. And that's the real experience. And really
That's right.
remembering, because basically I'm getting this onion ring. It's like layers, like an onion. And I think when you peel off that onion, that's when you remember. And when you truly,
That's
truly remember,
right.
it's just another dimension. And another dimension for a lot of people is people think it's, somewhere up there, but it's truly just a frequency and that we can tap into. And I think
Absolutely.
if money was not the object, if you ask me, I believe that this would be the real experience because we would not chase money in the way we're chasing survival today. And by not chasing survival, you're gonna start to recognize that there's more things within you that you can accomplish within yourself to not only feel better, do better, but there's more things to experience within life, within this earth. There is so many beautiful locations throughout this entire planet, but we limit ourselves and we put ourselves in the same comfort zone, in the same box, from the same hours, at same dates from year to year. And the
Absolutely.
sad part from my side is a lot of people are aware that they don't like what they are doing, but they're continuing to do that. And
They just don't know how
that's
to
where I
break the
come back.
cycle. That's where your work
Yeah,
is so important. That's where the meditation work is so important together, you and I, and what we're going to be planning for in the future here in Costa Rica. Small hints.
stay tuned for that.
Um, will be yes, will be very profound. It will be paradigm
Yeah,
shifting for everyone and anybody who wishes to imbibe in it. And I don't know why people wouldn't. I think everyone realizes the crisis that the world is in, and to not do anything, to think that you don't have, that you cannot do anything, is actually so unempowering. And this is why your work is so powerful and important, is to get people into that
thank
mind
you.
frame, your mind frame, Levi's
Hmm.
mindset, that it is possible. Anything is possible. You're only
Yeah,
you're limited by your own restrictions in your own mind. And it's too hard for people to really understand. And um, I like what you said about money, the monetary thing, and how, and especially when I look back on my corporate life, I fell into that programming. It's like being on a treadmill. You just keep going and going, and you try to
you're
get the
just
higher
running and running.
position. You're just running, and you don't even know. It's the I think we spoke of this last time. It's like I see so many of my friends looking at their neighbors and saying, "Oh my, they're adding addition on their house, honey."
We
I've
need
got
to
to
buy
work
one.
20 more hours because we need to add an addition similar to that. And the swimming pool's next.
Yeah,
Okay. And then people are working 70, 80-hour a week jobs to support this lifestyle that they can't really afford. And the truth is,
yeah,
the things that they're supposed to be enjoying, like the yacht or the swimming pool, they don't have time. They're exhausted by the time that they're finished working. It's so silly,
yeah.
but they don't
No time
recognize
for it.
it because treadmill. You just keep, it's the programming.
Yeah.
So rewiring is very powerful and very possible, as you know.
Yeah, it's one of the most powerful things that ever came into my life. The brain rewiring was something I never heard before. And I went through the process. I went through a program, brain rewiring and paradigm shift, subconscious reprogramming. And it like blew out my mind. Like every single thing. It was like an explosion of mind. And I've teach this now for many months, brain rewiring specifically. And have a lot of clients truly transformed everything in their life just because of their shifting their thoughts. They're releasing the
Huge.
things that are doesn't resonate with them. And in general, I think just shifting your mind, shifting the perceptions you have about things will turn you to a new understanding of what money is, because a lot of people think we work for money, but I don't believe we should work for money. We should provide our unique expression, offer it,
Yep.
and we will receive. And that what we call, law of attraction. That's another deeper topic of the laws of the universe, but it's just so simple. If you ask me, it's so simple to when you come into that understanding of consciousness, like what money is, how do we earn money, and why we should earn money for our own survival, and what type of lifestyle we want the money to provide us. But I think a lot of people, they are put into this program, as we call it, and they're running on the treadmill without having an even putting in the effort to try to get themselves out, because as the example you said, people are copycats. People are copying other
Yep.
people, so when they see other people are working 9 to 5, they think that they need to do the same. And
Absolutely.
this is an interesting one because you were the one that said this to me. I don't know, a couple of weeks ago. You said, Levi, you know what? You are not even an entrepreneur. You are an inventor. You have an inventor mind. That's
Yep,
so much more than being an entrepreneur. And I
absolutely. That's
reflected
exactly
a
what I
lot
said.
about that. You said,
Excellent.
yeah,
I'm glad, and you should keep on, keep reflecting on that because it's true. I've met very few. I've met no one to date, no one at your young age who already has skipped through entrepreneurial, the entrepreneurial phase and is an inventor. That's, and and I'm speaking from, invention, working for a company that is all about innovation. Invention, Promega is a
mhm,
wonderful biotech company. And so you have a very similar mindset to the CEO of that company, which is again incredible at your age. So yeah,
thank you.
I'm super
Mhm.
glad that you locked on to what I said and you remind me that, yeah, that I said that about
Yeah,
you.
it's been with me for a long time, and it was a very good reminder because a lot of the creations I'm doing right now, not only for Levi's mindset, but different projects and just different practices in my life, I am always looking to invent new things that doesn't exist within this, experience, what we call the human experience. Don't forget every week the human experience, and this is a funny one
Tune in.
because I've been trying to invent. I don't want to reveal too much, but I'll tell you one thing, and all for the people that are listening to this podcast. I am transparent in this podcast. I am going to speak a lot of truths from what I'm doing in my daily life and share a lot of crazy things. But one of the inventions that I would want to do for my legacy before I leave this planet is I want to create one of the world's first educational system that provides kids and adults real education in terms of body, mind, and soul. And now we're talking including yoga, meditation, and all kind of things that supports us to understand more about all of these forces, and that our individual consciousness is not separated from the universal, and we really are that universe that we can see right in front of us. And I know this is a super big dream, I know this is something crazy, this is hardly something you could believe in, but I had this
I
with
believe it.
me ever since you said that about the invention mind, that as long as you have the mindset you can invent things. And yeah, I
You
think a
know,
lot of people needs to
how do
shift their
you
mindset to that.
you do how do you think these things came into existence? How does anything tangible, somebody had a thought and they acted on it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just showing tangible physical objects, but what you're speaking of and the things that you are inventing go way beyond that. They go beyond
Hmm.
the material world, and help people to access these you know these states of non-monetary joy. Let's put it that way. Non-monetary, because non-monetary joy is what everybody should be striving for. When your joy and your
Yeah.
happiness is solely and exclusively dependent on an income, a particular income, and then what you find is that's never enough, right? So you're just going to keep striving for more, and the more you do that, the more you disconnect from like this nature. Look who's calling
Nature.
us. I mean,
Yes.
and I teach very often from the mindset that whatever your internal landscape is what you are projecting out in the world. So if you don't like, take a look around you in your environment right now. If you don't like what you see, now I happen to love what I see because, well, what's not to love, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
I
hard
created
to not
this.
love that. Yeah,
I created
I can
this, and
imagine.
I created it from first going in and changing my own internal landscape to be reflective of this. So when you turn in through
Hmm.
meditation and you visualize, and when you clean your own internal landscape and you clean it and you keep cleaning it and brightening that light which resides within all of us, then what you project out is what you desire, is what have been wishing for. You are the one you're looking for. I think we spoke to that last time. That's
Yeah, as
actually
we're
a quote,
talking
I
about,
think.
you're the one you're looking.
You're the
I
one you're
discovered
looking
that in
for.
Costa Rica. I discovered that one
Uh-huh.
in Costa Rica. I would love to have a really, really long episode one time, just sharing my experience in Costa Rica
Let's
when I
do that.
truly like had my big self discovery. And I think a lot of people could use that to really discover who they truly are. And I don't only mean like within, I just mean like discovering that you are connected to everything, connected to
Absolutely.
nature, as you were speaking about, and the environment that influences our mind. And the mind, if we really start to tap into our mind, I think that's when we can come into understanding that we are capable of creating everything, but we are also everything, because everything you already know about is there for a reason. I know this
Absolutely.
sounds, hard for a lot of people to inhale, and it's some profound conversations for a lot of people. It's basically alien terms for some people, but
Could be,
we're
yeah.
shifting, we're moving into new paradigm, 5D.
Time to
You're gonna
shift.
see, yeah, it's time. High dimensional beings is here right in front of you. Laura, I'm interested to know, if money was not the object, would you still be a scientist? Would that still be your career path?
Really good question. And yes, I do believe, and I have no regrets. I do believe that my, I have so far two chapters in this life, and one was a scientist, and I was not misled in being a scientist. Am I am still a scientist. I call myself now a citizen scientist, doing more investigative work in nature. But as far as my science career, yes, I would do it again. I would certainly do it again, because it was also a path, a necessary path for me to get where I am now. So it was very fruitful, both from the monetary standpoint, but that is not what I was looking to gain, not at all, as a scientist. For me, it was just having had this curious mind. It started when I first looked through a microscope. I was probably, microscopes were a very new thing because I'm that old. But when I was in high school, they were like, it was pretty new. And
Yeah.
DNA had, Watson and Crick had just discovered, actually, it's not them. Let me rescind what I just said. Rosalind Franklin, a woman, actually was the first to delineate the molecular structure of DNA and RNA and viruses. But Watson and Crick, being men, stole her thunder in the end. And that's not to suggest that they did not do any work. They certainly did, but it was multiple people that actually discovered DNA, as it were. But it was the first time looking through the microscope in my early high school years that I realized this is, there are things out there that we can't see, and this kind of
Yeah.
bridges the gap between science and my metaphysical background, right? There are
Hmm.
things out there that are like bacteria and so forth that are crawling on us that we can't see, but when we put them under a microscope, we can see them. Amazing.
Yeah.
Now you can extrapolate
Yeah,
that
that's
into,
very crazy.
my current life, which is the metaphysical, the quantum field, the things we can't see, the vibrations that are certainly part of us, the prana, if you will, the life force. Chi is sometimes what it's referred to. All these esoteric terms, just because we cannot see them, does not mean they don't exist. So it's
Yeah.
very interesting how my worlds kind of have collided and come full circle that way. So yeah, so I don't know if that answers your question. If I had it to do again, would I do it again? Yes. Simply because I don't
So
think that it would have led had I not fallen into the science path, I might not have fallen into this path.
yeah, everything unfolds to something, right?
That's
Everything
right.
is how it is, and it becomes something bigger,
There are no
something that we never
accidents.
could expect. What I'm doing today, I could never expect for, like, I never thought I would do what I'm doing today for a couple of
Uh-huh.
years ago, and not even like months ago. I was thinking that I would sit where I'm sitting today and doing what I'm doing. So I think a lot of things
You're on a
change
fast
throughout your
track.
life. Yeah, I think just life goes by, and it's I think you need to embrace every existent moment, to just inhale every single moment, and whatever it takes you, it takes you. By this time, people should really know what PCR is and what happened in the world and the pandemic and how everything hit us. And there's going a lot of rumors that the vaccine is changing our DNA. What's your perspective about that? What's your opinion?
It's a very, very good question. And the short answer is no. It's impossible. It is impossible for the vaccine to actually elicit changes in the molecular structure of the human body. I know a lot of people worry about that, but it is a complete fallacy and conspiracy. And the vaccine itself, just to not get too scientific, but the vaccine is manufactured from some of the vaccines. No, 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 I don't want to misspeak because I'm not up to speed on the various vaccines that are now floating around. But there are two types, and Moderna and is on one end, Pfizer and AstraZeneca are on another end, and they're manufactured in different ways. And so one way is through what's called an adenovirus, and they send the adenovirus, um, into the body to elicit an immune response, basically. And so then you build up the antibodies, and you can fight off an infection if the real one comes. That's just a kind of a short answer.
Hmm.
The other way is what they call an attenuated virus. So they'll actually take the virus, the outer coating of the virus, and not the genetic components that help it to replicate. And they'll manufacture a vaccine based on that to do the same sort of thing, elicit an immune response, basically build up your army of immune cells so that if the real virus does enter, you have enough of your army, your immune cell army, to take care of it. That's so. Sorry, I could obviously go into a lot of detail about that, but I don't want to. Your audience is probably already asleep. Um, so the answer, though, to your more direct question is it absolutely cannot change DNA. For anybody that feels like their DNA is being changed or that there's some sort of physiological happening in their body, I speak to this a lot about, people who've had bad habits, say eating bad food, and they regret that. And they look back and they think, I shouldn't have eaten that
Yeah.
hamburger. Or I'm about to eat this hamburger and I know I shouldn't, but I'm going to. I'm about to take a vaccine and I don't want to because it's going to change my DNA. A lot of what happens in the physiological body begins in the mind. And you know this, I know you know this, but
Yes.
whatever
Thank
you
you. I was
come,
gonna say that.
so whatever your intention is. So I speak a lot to cancer patients about this. Like, I avoided chemotherapy. I avoided a lot of the Western medical procedures and made some choices that some people think were risky and scary, but I'm almost 10 years out. And
Yeah.
I purport that I wouldn't be here if I had taken the therapy that they suggested. One of them was chemo, and I refused it. But,
Hmm.
for folks I've counseled a lot of women who've had to have chemotherapy, and they say it's going to destroy my body. Well, okay, you started with that thinking. And so if you start with that thinking, then you're going to manifest it.
Yeah.
What you resist persists, sort of thing. Like if you're
Hmm.
resisting chemo and you're resisting but if you put good intention into anything that you're consuming, taking in, injecting, having injected in you, it's all about
It's
what is your intention, because you can protect yourself. You can protect yourself through the practice of meditation by tapping into those higher powers, tapping into your higher self,
yeah.
and then just letting go and letting the universe take care of you, because it always does.
I think this is a very scary one for a lot of people, and especially for the ones that already took the vaccine. And I know there was a clip went viral, especially here in Sweden, where Pfizer is explaining that there is a chip within the actual vaccine. And I don't know all of these theories, what people are speaking about, if it's fake or not. For me, I don't really like matter. It doesn't really matter for me anymore because we're out of the pandemic. But I think something that was bothering me a lot throughout the COVID pandemic was this separation that was created. It was a lot of separation that was created, and these rules with the mask really created
Yep.
big arguments with people that it just shouldn't be an arguments. And when I was
Incredible.
traveling a lot through COVID, and all my friends and people that saw me on social media was asking me like, Levi, how could you not support the world right now? Like, you're traveling 12
Mm,
airports throughout COVID. And for me, it was more about like, I was feeling I was doing something good for the world under that time,
absolutely.
because that's when I was started, my teachings and lectures and everything. So I was feeling I was doing something good, but I got so many hitbacks like, why are you
Mm.
not home? Why don't you vaccinated? And I feel like
Um,
I'm not aligned. My mind is not aligned with the vaccine. And as you said, intentionally, everything is created twice, first in your mind and then into reality. So if
Absolutely.
we start to think in a better way, wouldn't our human experience change towards what we want to become? That one is
100%.
like a 1+1 question for me. Like, I did not go to school, but I kind of know the answer on that. And
You
this is
know,
one that
you're
bothers
you're beyond school. You're way beyond school. You've got a PhD
me.
in life, dude. I mean, seriously, school would be boring for you. You'd be asleep. Really? Is this what they're teaching?
I've expanded my consciousness a lot these latest years for my traveling. But I would not encourage people to drop out of school just because they
Agreed.
see other people drop out of school. But I would recommend a lot of people that wants to become a very profound, experienced, and good entrepreneur needs to be self-educated. So even
Yes.
if you don't want to jump out of school, you need to educate yourself after school or before school. That's
Take
going
the
to be
time
a big
instead
one.
of playing computer games or whatever,
Yeah.
explore those other areas of interest while you are getting your education. It's kind of the way that I did with my career. I was a scientist, but I was still always studying yoga, meditation,
Hmm.
fitness practices, and always looking for more and new information, looking for the greatest and latest and greatest. And I continue to do that. So being a lifelong learner is very, very important. So I like the fact that, yeah, you're saying, we're not encouraging people to drop out of school. It's still important, but if you want to achieve more, then start opening your mind the way that Levi has, and start realizing that there's more beyond the formal education. There's so much
Yeah.
more that you can be doing. Yeah, it's really.
Especially within the inner world. I think we're
Mhm.
learning a lot. I mean, education in general is awesome. I've learned that education actually comes from Latin and stands for edico. It's about developing from within. So we
Mm.
say that you need to remember. We're always talking about awakening and remembering, and this knowledge, this wisdom is stored in our DNA. We can connect our higher self, so we can get access to this education that we're talking about by turning inward. And I think a lot of people has heard by this time spiritual awakening, the Great Reset, the Great Awakening, and everything that is going viral and trendy right now with spirituality. But what's your thoughts and opinions about the Great Awakening, the spiritual awakening? What is a spiritual awakening, first of all?
Mm-hmm. So, a spiritual awakening, in short, is as we've been speaking, it's the recognition of that brilliant light that resides within. When we first have that awakening and awareness that we are the light and that we are who we are looking for, as I keep saying,
Yeah,
that is the beginning of an awakening. And then maintaining it becomes a whole nother subject, and it does need to, it's not self-sustaining. You have to continue to dedicate yourself to practice, is really what I found. When I slip away from my meditation practice for one reason or another, and it's not often that I do, sometimes things take me off my trajectory, travel or so forth, things like that. That's when I recognize, oh, I'm out of the flow. I'm out of the flow. I'm out of the zone. And it's
yeah,
because I'm not meditating.
meditation.
So the more we do this, the more we meditate, the more we raise our vibration, but we also raise the vibration of all of those around us. When we start brightening our
Mm.
own light, even being present with work associates or even just walking through the grocery store, anybody that walks across your path, even if you don't speak with them, you're raising their vibration by raising your own. And this
Yeah,
is very important now where we're trying to awaken as a human species, because as we spoke earlier, the human species is in its sixth mass extinction. It's the sixth time that this has happened where the human species is in peril. The unique thing about um, this particular phase of extinction is that we are responsible for it through what
yeah,
the atrocities we have committed to Mother Earth have elicited our own demise. And so it's incumbent upon all of us to do what we can do. And meditating is easy to do. It's free, it's legal, and you can do it anywhere. So why not?
anytime.
Uh,
Yeah,
and so, there are these predictions that by 2025, 50% of the human population will cease to exist. That's a really lofty thing to say. And it's only a couple of,
Yeah.
we're gonna see it if we, if we make it, if we're part of the 50%, you and I. But it's critical to think about these things. And this is written into several scriptures. I think if I didn't send you the link, I'll send you the link on this, but it ties in a lot of Nostradamus theories and all of these, the Mayans and the Aztecs, you know, people of other worlds have written, inscribed about this period that we're in, this period of the universe that we're in. And again, on the Hindu side of things, because that's what I've most studied, we are in what's called Kali Yuga, which is the state of greatest duality, the state of greatest illusion, where we see separateness. We
Yeah.
see us so separate from each other. We don't understand that we're one. If you picture that we're one big organism, why would we commit any atrocity against any other human
Yeah.
being?
Why would we
It's
kill
like
each
cutting your
other?
own arm off. It's like suicide,
Yeah.
cut your own arm
But
off.
this is what I meant with the COVID. The separation we created within COVID, like we were
It's amplified.
separating families from each other
Yep.
and really creating such an obvious separation where we
Yep.
are as human species lowering our vibration because we couldn't access the love. As we said earlier on, all religions comes down to one thing, and it's love, unconditional love, and in like self love is we're worthy of it, all
It's
of
at the
us.
root of it.
The thing is, within meditation, now when we're talking about meditation, the human experience, and money, and everything in between, something that really came to me through my meditation practice is that there is truly not an object, there's no location, there's no texture, there is nothing out there that can make us really happy. And then I mean like really, really joyful, like ecstasy frequency, like really, really high on life. And yes, I would say environment would help you, of course, because as you said earlier, as long as you're going in a supermarket, others people's energy are transmuting to you, the
Mm-hmm.
vibration are sharing. But the thing is, I think a lot of people are searching this external happiness in terms of objects, cars, yachts, the occupation, the titles, the brands, but they don't really realize. And I think this is including for myself. I'm still working on this, but there is only the inner world that will truly make you really successful and make you understand that you are within and you are the expression of out. So it's basically an in and output. This is a big one I've discovered in meditation because meditation really showed me that you can be at any place at any time and it's free. You just close your eyes, you go into a meditative state. But yes, of course, there's different like there's different ways to meditate. And experiencing your own practice throughout these months and years that you are doing the practice, of course you will evolve your practices. But in the beginning, for me, it was very hard to be serious with it. It was very hard to be serious with the
Mm-hmm.
meditation
You're not
practice.
alone. Yeah, it is
And
very hard.
yeah,
I often
is
say
there
that
is there
it's hard to turn, when you think, most people think about their minds and really turning in, closing the eyes to, really focus in on their mind. It's like going to a very dangerous city alone and walking the
yeah,
streets at night.
I
You
don't
don't
know.
want to do it. You don't want to go there alone. That's how most people think of
Like, why
meditation.
would you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
fear is the number one reason that people don't meditate. They're afraid of what they're going to see. They're afraid of their own mind. Again, as if they were
Yeah.
walking through a dangerous city at night on their own. I don't want to go there alone. I'm not going into that mind alone. Someone want to come with me? Hold my hand.
Nope. A big excuse I heard from a lot of people, and this was my mom actually in the beginning. I got my mom to meditate and doing yoga though now, so it's okay. But in the
Great.
beginning, I got the excuse of I don't have time.
Uh-huh.
And this is a big one for anyone out there listening to this. Please close your eyes right now. Visualize yourself dreaming yourself away to exactly the point you want to be in life, how you want to live, how you want to be approached, just how you want to feel. And think about it for a moment that this imagination, these pictures on the screen of your mind that you are creating is possible. But the only way it is possible if it's you are creating it. you are the creator of these images, you are the creator of everything that is going to unfold. I don't know. I just wish I could put it so simple for people to please
You just can't.
meditate.
I just can't believe
Please.
what you just said, though, because if people can't be inspired by that, then they're not going to be inspired. There's certain people that are just not going to gravitate to it. But anybody who's on the fence has just been pushed over the fence with what you just said. It's
Thank you.
so perfectly articulated,
Yes.
and it's profound in its simplicity. It's very profound. So yeah,
Perfect.
just
I'm
do it.
glad to hear that.
And to what you
Just do
said,
it,
I
as
don't
Nick
have
said.
time. Get up 15 minutes earlier. Everybody can get up 15 minutes earlier. There's no excuse.
Yeah.
And when you do that, what you're going to find is that you end up having more time at the end of your day because you become more productive, more focused. And so you buy yourself time on the other end by taking that just short, even if it's only 10 minutes on your mat, it counts. It counts. It's
Yeah.
really significant. I think there's a little, one of my advertisements has a little baby Buddha sitting in his maroon and gold robe. And it says, if you think, how does the saying go now? Let me think about it. Hopefully I don't ruin it. Those who think that they only have 20 minutes to meditate should sit for at least 1 hour. Something along those
Mm.
lines. If you like, for those who think, no, I don't have 20 minutes to meditate, you actually need to sit for 1 hour then.
1 hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm not saying that right. I could probably find it. It's somewhere in my advertising, but
But it's
it's
basically
in,
explains it.
yeah, as we all have time. And when you sit and you create that time for yourself, you're doing time expansion. There is something called time expansion. And I sometimes have these discussions with the CEO of my company, like, you're able to warp time, aren't you? And well, I don't know how he does it. I know he does. I know he's able to warp time because he's in multiple places and multiple universes at once, which is, probably
Mm.
too much for the audience right now.
If we could ever reach out to people with a very deeply connection within spirituality, I feel that we should do a part two just focusing on the deepest secrets about spirituality.
Yeah.
But I think we should save that one. I think
Yeah,
we should
let's keep
save
it
that one.
surface for now. I think we're deep. We're in deep waters already, probably.
We're in deep waters, but I would want to go touch on the water a bit to feel if it's cold or warm because I know that you worked a lot with the medicine. I know you've been, you know, doing psychedelics, and it's been a big change of your life. What does psychedelic mean to you, and is something you recommend people to do throughout their
Mm,
human experience?
really good questions. And to lead off, the first question: what are psychedelics? For me, they are what the term entheogen. Entheogen is what I align most with. So, I hear the word psychedelics and I almost cringe. I want to put my hand up and say, no, no,
You're
me, I've
wrong.
never. I mean, as you're talking to somebody who's never smoked marijuana, okay, so it's kind of ridiculous to think that, yes, I've experienced psychedelics, but in entheogenics sense. So entheogens are, and I forget, I think I gave you the etymology of that word. Um, Basically, what it comes down to is entheogens are substances that help you realize the God molecule or the divine light which resides within you. And so, yes, this was,
Mm.
for as long as I had meditated, practiced yoga, and so forth, this accelerated my experience beyond words. It's indescribable, ineffable, but most certainly it plays a part in why I'm here in Costa Rica, plays a part in what helped me come off of my trajectory, helped me through my cancer diagnosis, because it was only 6 weeks after my surgery, after a double mastectomy, that I traveled to Peru and had my first shamanic experience. And by the way, I lined that all up. I had the trip planned to Peru before cancer reached up and bit me in the butt. That's an important part of the story because I had signed up for ayahuasca with my very good friend who was my massage therapist at the time. We both taught fitness classes together at the gym and, super close. And so one point I was laying on the table and he was giving me a massage and he said, "Oh, what's new?" And he said, "I'm going to Peru." And I said, "What? Not without me.
Wow.
I'm going with you, right?" He said, "Well, sure, if you want. I mean, I'm going on a shamanic journey." And then I got even more excited, still not knowing,
Wow.
completely naive. Of course I want to go. Shamanic journey? And he said, "Okay, well, Laura, I need you to go home and Google ayahuasca." And I was like, "Aya who?" And I was just getting off the table. And he said, "Okay, Laura, on second thought, don't Google anything. Don't read anything that I don't send you. You're just going to get scared." And I was like, "Oh, no, I actually
Mm.
am scared. What is this? What am I getting myself into?" But, I had committed to him. And this is a gay man, by the way, really dear friend. And when you commit, this is going to sound really um, profiling. When you commit to a gay man, you commit. Don't back out.
Yeah.
This is just
Yeah,
this
you
is
gotta
just
do it.
this guy. I know I'm generalizing. That's stereotyping, I should say. Shame on me. I don't mean to stereotype, but no, this was
Shame
his
on you, Laura.
personality. Shame on me. This was just his personality. I said, yes, I committed. And when I commit, I'm 100% in. And so I didn't know what I was getting into. And I read about it and I watched videos and I sat on the fence with fear. This was February, by the way, that I committed to this. February of 2013. The most the most incredible, powerful 4 months of my life. Starting in February, committed to ayahuasca, had many sleepless nights thinking about it. Like, I can't do that. I don't do drugs. That's drugs. That's drugs. I don't do
Yeah,
drugs.
that's what I heard a lot of people say. It's
I'm going to
drugs,
fry my brain. I'm never going to be the same. And you know what? I'm not. And I'm super happy that I'm not. Super happy. That's the
Yeah.
end story. But in between, so February, March, fear kept running after me. There were some times where my confidence was high and I thought, I'm going to do this. I need to do this because I read enough testimonials and seen some stories that were compelling enough that brought my confidence up a little bit. But then in April, so in February, March, April, 3 months I'm sitting with this fear. And in April, the Consciousness Forum was held at my company. Now, this is a forum that's held every year. They bring in experts from all over the world in studies of consciousness, doing, high level
Mm.
studies of consciousness, the experts. And so this particular year, 2013, the topic was psychedelics. Well, it was actually sort of panel discussions between the Tibetan Buddhist monks and the shaman. Which route do you go? Which route to enlightenment do you go? The fast track through psychedelics? Some would argue that's spiritual bypassing, or do you go the slow route, meditation? And so it was really fascinating to
Yeah.
be sitting in the audience at my company, listening to talks from, James Fadiman, who, if you know him, he ran in the circles of Timothy Leary and those folks who were doing psychedelic studies back in the 70s before it was shut down. The war on drugs, which is really a war on consciousness, was instituted, right? And so listening to him, listening to all these experts, and Nachi Ricard, who is deemed the happiest man in the world, he's a Tibetan Buddhist monk. He was there with his maroon and gold robes, speaking as well to the pathway of meditation. So I was getting a full-on education in April about something that I was about to do in August in Peru.
Mm.
Still,
Got prepared, huh?
I had fear. April, I still was sitting on the fence of fear, and I was like, what's wrong with me? Why do I still feel like I can't do this? And then in May,
Yeah.
wham, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And you know what? It dissolved all the
Oh,
fear.
wow.
It absolutely, the fear just evaporated. And I was like, not only am
Erased.
I doing this, but now I am like, it's imperative I do it. I realized the importance of
Mm.
going and having this experience in order to heal on a deeper level from just the physical aspect of cancer. So yeah, so that's that was 2013. That was on that in that short 4 month span of my life is the beginning of the shift for me. Complete change in paradigm. Now it took me the important part, and I want to make important point I want to make to your audience is that these are not for everyone. As you asked, the other question you asked is, you recommend everybody do them? No, certainly there's a certain set of population that is not appropriate for that for use of these plant medicines or entheogens. I think that the medicine calls to you. She was calling me
Yeah.
and I was resisting. And she kept calling me and I was
Yeah.
resisting. And then she said, how about a little something called breast cancer? Now, what have you got to say? And I was
Yeah.
like, please let me visit you. You know, ayahuasca is known
Yeah.
as a female energy. And so that's why I'm saying she.
Female spirit, right?
See,
Yeah.
exactly. See, speaking Spanish, she is the what they call the abuela or grandmother, the grandmother
Hmm.
molecule, and so she has a lot to reveal to us, both about our past lives, our present, and the future. And so visions of being here in
Yeah.
Costa Rica are what came through in that 2 week period. But then it took me, and this is the important point, if people do experience plant medicines, the most important thing to do is to sit with it and integrate it. How? Meditation.
Yeah.
So, and you and I have
Meditation.
spoken,
We come back to meditation all the time.
everything comes back to meditation.
Meditation.
It's the answer. And so that's one of my main missions here on this property to do is to work with people who've experienced these, very strong compounds and had these very, life shifting, paradigm shifting experiences to help them to reintegrate into their lives because it's very easy. And you're starting
Hmm.
to see a lot of psychedelic tourism, especially in this country because it's unregulated. There are a lot of ceremonies, like every weekend. We can imbibe in any number of psychedelics, experiences from mushrooms to ayahuasca to the toad medicine, the classic 5-MeO DMT. But what happens on the back end? Putting people back on an airplane and sending them home is unethical and immoral, and it is
Yeah.
spiritual bypassing, and it can cause more harm than good. And so that's what I hope this place to be is a place of integration, a soft landing for people post medicine experience where they can integrate with nature. They can learn to meditate if they don't already meditate, or have powerful experiences like you've had on this property. The river itself is medicine.
Mm. The river, yeah, I was gonna say the river is a beautiful experience. So when I came to your property and when I stayed there, I could really feel that my energy just shifted. There was something within me that really, really changed. And something I realized after I left your property was I was integrating a lot of habits that I today have. So I would really recommend you do something that can help people integrate some form of faith in their life, even if it's not with the medicine. And regarding medicine, now when we're speaking about these psychedelics and different things that makes us basically to connect faster, like a shortcut to the spiritual essence, I think a lot of people are connecting this psychedelics, drugs, or whatever they want to call it, to a label drugs. Like, and when people hear drugs, they know immediately that this is not something we should do. And I mean, I'm from Jamaica, and in Jamaica, we smoke a lot of weed, right? So
Yeah.
I grew up with my dad
I remember
smoking a
being in
lot of
Jamaica
weed.
and being offered
Yeah.
that. Long
Yeah,
time
you
ago.
know how it is over
I know how
there.
it
You
is.
will
Yeah.
smell a lot of weed.
Yes.
And because I've been an athlete, I've been a soccer player. I never smoked, I never drank, I never had any form of drug until my later experiences, my transformation in Costa Rica, when the medicine actually entered into my life. It was such an calling. It was such an here right in front of your eyes, and I could never see myself come to that point sitting down there with the medicine. That was the last thing I could ever think about through my entire life. And this medicine that I call medicine, what the reason why, because the medicine taught me of who I am. It really showed me who I am in the way of showing me my mind. And that's where Levi mindset was born, like truly was born, because it was first and just me, expressing myself. But within this medical experience, I saw that it was more than an idea. It was a lifestyle for me to live and breathe. My way of thinking. And my way of thinking, I saw that other people needed to feel the same way, because under that experience, I felt like a god. I felt like I was the
It's
entire
because you are.
universe.
That's because you are. Right.
Right? Because I am.
Mhm.
So, and that was the first time I really felt that ecstasy frequency. And I remember throughout the experience, I said to myself, how come these things are silenced? How come that we classify these things as drugs? And I didn't put too much weight into it, and I didn't want to do too much research, because that was just one of the experiences that came to me. And I had the integration phase afterwards, implementing a lot of good routines. But one thing I remember from this journey, what we call a trip, is I could hear my mind rewiring. And I could hear and see and feel how everything was getting erased that didn't resonate with me, and was opening up for new things to come in that was only like positivity basically. So within the trip I was starting to rehearse positive affirmation like sensational success, wealth without worry, and I could just feel how it was embodying that energy. I could just feel how I was feeling myself so strongly connected at that point. And ever since I asked myself, how come people classify these things as a drug? And then I had this in mind for a long time. Do you think that the government has silenced a lot of truth about the human experience, the human existence, in order to control us?
Yes, and I'm going to sound like a conspiracy theorist, and maybe I am, call a spade, but most certainly the government had a huge part to play in creating this war on consciousness. They call it a war on drugs. It's really,
Hmm.
truly a war on consciousness. And it's horrible to think about how many decades have passed where these substances could have been used to save lives, literally. There's an organization called MAPS, the Multidisciplinary Association of Psychedelic Studies, and they're out of Berkeley in California, and they are the first to have been funded to use MDMA, which is on the street otherwise known as ecstasy or Molly. They're using it now
Yeah,
successfully to help alleviate treatment-resistant depression. This is huge. And guess where it was funded?
yeah,
Guess who funded this work? This MDMA research was funded by a conservative family. I cannot remember their names, but they have a son, a military son, who came back from Afghanistan or Iraq, I can't remember, came back from war and was devastated and suicidal. And so they,
wow.
put aside their conservative thinking and helped to fund the research for MAPS. This opened the doorway for a lot of folks to start exploring the use of these powerful medicines, for everything from PTSD to addictions, breaking addictions, just breaking it. It's really what happens to speak sort of scientifically, is that what these compounds do is they cut what's called the default mode network of the brain. So the default mode network is our programming, is that, I guess the best way
Mm,
to explain it is, and Michael Pollan, by the way, speaks eloquently to this. Michael Pollan is a New York Times bestseller author, and he's written many books. Food Fight, or In Defense of Food, is one of them that your audience probably is aware of. He recently authored and published a book in 2017 called Change Your Mind with Psychedelics. Change Your Mind with Psychedelics.
yeah, I heard
And
about this.
you hear about it? Yes. Thank God for
Yeah.
him, because he's a face and a name that everybody knows and respects, right? He is
Mm,
a scientist of sorts, a journalist, and so a lot of people are very familiar with his work, and again, highly respected. And he went and had his own profound medicine experiences, and like you and I, always afraid in the past of doing drugs because they're going to fry my brain. This is your
yeah,
brain. This is your brain on drugs, right? And so
exactly.
he speaks very eloquently to how the power of these medicines, and how it's almost criminal that they've been locked up for so long as Schedule One. There are three waves of
Mm,
psychedelics. There's the first wave was with the indigenous cultures. The tribes in the Amazon, say, if we're speaking about ayahuasca specifically. So the Amazonian shaman would administer only in ceremony. So setting, and intention are three critical things that people need to think about if they want to have any psychedelic experience. Set. What is your mindset? Talk to Levi. Get
yeah.
your mindset right. What is the setting? Where are you? What environment? Are you in the ghetto? Are you on the streets of LA? Not a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you in nature? The
Determine your
best
trip.
thing. Yeah, the best place to be is in
Yeah.
nature. And then intention. Where are you going? What is your specific intention? What do you want to get out of that experience? It becomes very important, and it
Mm,
distinguishes the use of these medicines from the cavalier recreational use, which is where they got a bad
Yeah.
name. So the indigenous shaman always knew when people were coming to ceremony if they should or should not experience these compounds. And so they would not administer the plant medicines to anybody who wasn't ready. Kind of like what the Tibetan Buddhists do. They don't ordain, higher order sadhus and rishis unless they know that that
Okay.
student, so to speak, is ready. And so, similar, if
Yeah.
the person is ready for the medicine, then the shaman will administer in a very specific way, in a ceremonial way. That was the first wave of psychedelics. The second wave happened in the 60s and 70s, which we just touched on. The Timothy Leary, James Fadiman, Ram Dass, who was Albert Hoffman, who was the father of LSD. All of those folks were using and supporting and promoting because it could shift the world. Remember, this is also during the Vietnam War. It could shift us from fear, which creates war, to love. And so they were using it
Yeah.
recreationally. And speak how you will about using it recreationally. I'm not altogether for it because of what we've seen in the 60s and 70s. That's what caused it to get shut down for research use and all use. It's now a Schedule 1. All these are drugs and they're illegal. So quiet period of, what are we looking at? Like almost 40 years, 30, over 3 decades. And now they're resurfacing into the third wave. This third wave, hopefully we get it right. There are enough people in the world now, and the CEO of my company, Promega, is one of them, who are doing things the right way, doing things ethically, doing things with a lot of moral, aptitude, a lot of moral infrastructure there, if that makes sense. No
That's what
harm.
we need.
Yeah, that's what we need. That's what the world needs. And the world needs to wake up to this, and that these are not they're
Yes.
not drugs. They're not for cavalier use, but there's also
Uh-huh.
on the other end of the spectrum, people can get sort of addicted. There's actually no receptors in the brain that are addicted to these compounds, which makes it, if you think about it, people who are developing psychedelics, it makes it a non-sustainable business model. If you can't tie people in,
Yeah, exactly.
like
Because
the
you can, yeah.
pharmaceutical world, here's a pill that's going to keep you from being depressed. Take it every day for the rest of your life. You do MDMA
Yeah,
one
exactly.
time, crack it. You crack that default. You're not going back for
You're
it.
and you're yeah. That's the
So
interesting part because I heard that in a Netflix series was it's about psychedelics changing your mind, and they're explaining and they're kind of proving that you cannot become addicted on it. And like
yeah,
if we look
it's
at
true.
today's society, smoking cigarettes and alcohol and everything that is consuming is a very addictive drug. And I would say
100%.
that's the real drug. And when I'm talking a lot about, for example, the government that are silencing these truths about psychedelics and just in general medicine, the real medicine that comes from nature, and we're just looking at cigarettes that are consuming every single day and alcohol, isn't that the real drug? And this is something that you said really good. The war on consciousness is the real war,
Mm-hmm.
because we are walking through our entire day, our entire life. We're walking, I would say, really subconsciously. So we're going on autopilot. There's not a lot of people steering their life towards where they want to go. So we're really copycatting, as we were talking about earlier on. We're looking at what other people are doing. We're taking up their habits. And if they say psychedelics is a bad thing, then we're going to say that it's a bad thing because that's what we heard. And I think that refers to everything, like
100%.
basically everything. And this is a profound conversation a lot of people need to dive deeper into for themselves. But I think it's going more out there and going more social in the social medias. I know Kanye West also released a video when he's explaining in a podcast. He's saying that the government wants to block your pineal gland. For you that out there that doesn't know what your pineal gland is, your third eye, by basically, for example, in the toothpaste, you have this fluoride and everything that's blocking your pineal gland. And this is just some small things, but I know that like the guy, I don't know, XXX Temptation or someone, it's like a rapper. He's going in more into how he's putting people into a meditative state with his music because he's using certain frequencies and not. So it's so many things I think that is silenced. I also seen a bit about FBI's document about astral projection, where they are teaching their, I don't know what people that is working within the FBI, but like some certain group of people, they are teaching them how to open up their third eye to see the truth, because they need to know more than other people, and they need to teach them about astral projection. So now when we're talking about the human experience, and especially if money was not the object, I can truly see after this long conversation we have, and if I would come to a conclusion, I would say we're looking in. We're looking within to find this beacon of light that we are, to express that as a unique expression to this universe. And trying to really figure out that a lot of things are silenced by not only government, but from your friends, family, and people around you, because they are walking through with a mindset that is truly just a program, a paradigm that we live in. And as you said, in this phase, this season, in the world, in the universe right now, we're living in a very big illusion. If there's
So,
something you could recommend, Laura, to anybody out there right now listening, how do they change their life tomorrow?
well, they would begin obviously with the practice of meditation, and that is just to even sit in silence for 2 minutes and build on that time every day. Now, even before that, for people, it's difficult to sit in meditation. Start with breath work. Start with the gift of the breath, which is
Mm,
with you everywhere. It's free, it's legal, and you can't get away from it. You have to do it to live. But if you can start harnessing that breath, then you can start harnessing the mind. You know, the mind and the breath, I often reference them as roommates. They're like roommates. When one's in a bad mood, so too is the other. So start with the breath.
exactly.
Start by changing your breath. How so? You can just count the breath. Inhale for 4 counts or 5 counts. Exhale for 8 counts. You immediately shift your nervous system. You take the nervous system from the sympathetic mode, which is your fight or flight, and you bring it more towards parasympathetic, which is rest and restore. You know, the horse is very good at this, and this
Mm,
is part of the reason that I am doing equine therapy here, is because the horse, first of all, their hearts are 7 times larger than humans, and they govern most of their decisions based on the neurotransmitters of the heart, which is interesting. Another whole topic for another conversation. But they self-regulate pretty quickly. If you watch a horse who gets spooked, a paper bag floats in front of its face, and a rider is on the horse's back, and it jumps and it bucks and throws the rider. The rider gets injured. The horse looks and says, "Oh, sorry." And what does it do? It goes right back to eating. It goes right back to eating the grass it
yeah.
was wanting to eat. It's so there's resilience that's built into their nervous system that we don't have, but we do have it.
Hmm.
We just don't use it. And the tool to
Yeah, we don't
use
use it.
is the breath. So when you can use the
Yeah,
breath, and this is how the horse self-regulates, is through the use of breath. Boom. You are back to being resilient. You know, our
change.
nervous systems are not equipped to take the number of fight or flight experiences that we have every single day, yet we do. And the cumulative effect
Yeah.
of it is what causes disease. The body going out of ease is disease. The very term dis-ease, the body's out of ease. Why? Because, in large part, because of all of those situations where the nervous system was tripped from parasympathetic to sympathetic, and it doesn't go back. It's hard to
Mm,
shift it back. And so breath work, pranayama,
yeah.
alternate nostril breath, many different ways that you can learn um, to do the pranayama, the breath work. So yeah, that's what people can do right away, and it's free and it's legal, and it's with you
It's
everywhere.
legal. That's the best thing. It's
Legal.
they don't need to chase. They don't need to chase the money. They don't need to chase the survival to
No,
become a transformational being. Laura, this was an amazing conversation. I think we should
so
let people
incredible.
inhale, breathe. I think they should integrate
Agreed.
this conversation. Hopefully, we had a lot of people made it through to the end and can really, really, just reflect on the type of conversation we were trying to communicate to the earth. And most and foremost, this is going to be a very interesting episode for you and me to look back in a
For
couple of
sure.
years to see what
Oh, for
type of
sure.
change happened, and just
Because
see
we're
our own
making
path
change
where
here too.
we are making
We
change.
got some
Yeah.
plans. Stay tuned
So
because we got
we got some
plans.
plans. We got some amazing plans. So anyone out there, if there's anyone out there that's looking for a change and are ready to follow mine and Laura's journey, be ready for something amazing in Costa Rica. Laura, where can people find you if they want to contact you for any further information about your coaching?
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for asking, because my new website is about to launch actually on September 6th.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm super excited. So they can find me at Alchemy of Integrative Health. ALCHEMY, Alchemy, like melding together. Alchemy of Integrative Health. Or they just throw those words into a search engine along with my name, Laura Flanagan. They'll certainly find me. And I'm on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, all the socials. Twitter,
Yay.
not so much, but
Amazing.
yeah, I'm going to be pushing a lot more out,
You're
especially as
all
you and
over the
I
place.
continue to build. Yeah. So thank
That's
you. Thank
good.
you.
I will leave a link in the description to all your information. Hopefully, you have
Perfect.
some
Thank you.
people reach out to hear more of your inspiring knowledge about yoga and meditation. This was a very interesting conversation, especially about meditation. And I just want to leave off this last minute to the podcast my recommendation to changing your life, changing your mind. There is many powerful ways to change your life. There's many powerful ways to transform into your higher self and embody the potential reality of your future. But what I would recommend you doing is truly meditate on why you should meditate. Understand why you should meditate and towards what path you are heading in life. Sit down with yourself, take a paper and pen, write what you want to become or what you want to do or achieve, meditate on it, wait until you get the answer, start meditating, and then stay consistent with it. And from my heart to your heart, believe that is working because it's changed everything in my life. Literally every single thing. Laura, I feel that we need to do an episode 2.
Absolutely. You name the date, and I'll be right here, and we'll do it.
Amazing.
Deeper dive.
We'll let episode 1 roll for a while. Let people breathe and inhale this amazing conversation. Thank you so much for being
Thank
the
you.
first and the best guest on the Human
Oh,
Experience. Thank you,
you.
Laura.
Thank you so much, Levi. What a great honor. Honor, pleasure as all mine. And I can't wait to do it again. And I can't wait to have you back here.
I'll be back very soon. I'm
Awesome.
traveling in 3 weeks again, so I hope to see you there very soon.
Awesome.
All the audience, beautiful souls, thank you so much for being on this podcast. My name is Levi, and remember one thing: be all what you're capable of being.
You've been listening to The Human Experience. Joseph Murphy once said, "The great secret possessed by the great men of all ages was their ability to contact and release the powers of their subconscious mind." You can do the same. Our passion is to interview people from all over the world. Find out about their experiences and their mindset. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If so, make sure to like, rate, and review. To find out more information about Levi, programs, courses, and community, visit levismindset.com. And for daily reminders, weekly challenges, and free educational content, hit the Instagram at Levi's Mindset. And for the full video podcast, education, and to take part of the world tour, hit up the YouTube channel at Levi's Mindset. See you next time.